Kuzco is pretty problematic. He's kind of a prick, to be honest, and that's for a couple of reasons. For one, he's an emperor and still a teenager. This man has the most clout in the entire land and is overseeing villagers who have to get his approval on what seems to be everything. That's bound to get into anyone's head, right? You mean like you have to come to me just to hear me say yes or no about the dumbest things? I like the sound of that. For all we know, these people are asking Kuzco if their significant other is decent for them or they got together by fluke. However, whether or not he's redeemable is an entirely different story, but the short answer is yes. Even Mr. Asshole himself can salvage his character. So even you with your toxic traits, you should take some notes from your skinny friend over here and sprucing up your act just a little bit. If Kuzco changed his ways, so can you. Anyways, back to what I was saying. Is Kuzco's head equivalent to a blimp? Most definitely. Is he worse than 𝗧𝗛𝗛𝗕𝗥? Well, she's an exception. She's old, clearly has a skin problem, and weird to look at, so not entirely. But by the end of this video, you can make your own conclusion. Either way, Kuzco did everything wrong. Let me explain.
The Big Dipper.
At the start of the film, Kuzco finds himself in a slump. He's been stripped of everything he once had. This man went from being the equivalent of an 18-year-old social media star with a Lamborghini to now having to use the metro just to get from point A to B. This man has one of the worst rise and falls out of any fictional character in history. Luckily for him, at the end of it all, he actually had a lot of character growth. Kuzco actually learned something. As surprising as it is, he did. And it's back to what I was saying. At the start, he's no longer the once revered emperor. He's just a llama. And not a good looking one either. When he begins narrating about his situation, he tells the audience about how once upon a time he had everything. A legion of men at his disposal, a couple of bad bitches, fresh threads, a bunch of yes men, you know, the usual. In one scene, someone even feeds him food. He even has a whole montage and song that's sung about him. Some of the lyrics literally are just glazing Kuzco, as in this grown-ass midget was stretching his vocal cords in order to praise his lord and savior Kuzco. Dude is Kuzco's very own throat goat. This low-key made me wonder what his salary is. Bro was singing like he has fringe benefits that'll change his lineage forever. This dude was really living it up. Like, how come nobody sings songs about me, huh? Like, this boomer calls him the alpha and the omega. Brody ain't no alpha in any department. First of all, he needs to start lifting some dumbbells and getting his diet right, plus his calves look like baseball bats. Come on, Kuzco, you gotta have a certain frame about yourself before you even administer such brutal punishment to other people. Just look in the mirror for 2 seconds. It's called being self-aware. Anyways, back to why this dude is absolutely horrible. Kuzco is so selfish and arrogant that he throws out an old man from his place simply because he threw off his groove. Yeah, so the title of the movie is based on this. Wow, what a shocker. Yeah, I'm sure everyone realized that by now, but then there's some people out there who have the brain capacity of a goldfish, so I'm just throwing it in there. I'm getting sidetracked. Like I was saying, an old man who's been working here since forever. And to make matters worse, he didn't show any remorse either. Man's just folded his arms like a lawn chair and contorted his face before going on with his day. Minutes after this, he's asked to choose a bride. Kuzco has baddies way out of his league, but dismisses all of them. Hate to break it to you, buddy, but if you want royalty, none of these ladies would be standing before you. I'm just being honest. But I mean, good for you. This just goes to show how inflated his head is. From letting people go and acting like a cruel HR manager to being a toxic prick with bad bitches, just waiting to get that alimony money. Kuzco is overall pretty annoying and obnoxious. Kinda like those Twitter gurus with comb-overs always posting about how they made 7 figures for some weird drop shipping tactic that you've conveniently never heard of. This film is one of those golden gems. It's been over 2 decades and I still think it's pretty underrated. The main character reminds me of a lot of people. I'm sure you feel the same. He's the definition of main character syndrome. This ailment is one that's hard to recover from once you're diagnosed with it. For some people it lasts a lifetime, for some they only find the cure when it's a bit too late. But better late than never, right? His journey throughout the film is an interesting one. If Kuzco was not humbled, I wonder what the outcome would have been. But that's getting a little ahead of ourselves. During the first act of the film, Kuzco has a very brash attitude towards those he feels are inferior to him. For example, Pacha. Pacha came to the throne to address Kuzco and tell him that he can't build a crib on the hill because his entire family lives there. Kuzco being Kuzco, it entered one ear and left the other immediately. Kuzco is the perfect example of my playground, my rules. The premise of this film follows him wanting to build a fancy mansion on top of Pacha's family home. But because Kuzco gets turned into a llama by accident, he ends up learning a lesson or two. I would say more, but there was only one real lesson in this entire film, which is fundamentally at its core not to be a dickhead, because you never know when the tables will turn. When I watched this as a kid, I didn't appreciate the nuance of the movie. I was just there like, ooh, emperor, village people, purple lady. Nice. See, the reason he was dealt a bad hand was all due to this 5-letter word I keep hearing about almost every single day now. That being karma. See, Kuzco fired 𝗧𝗛𝗘 and he didn't have any sympathy. She's old and wrinkly and has been around ever since he was in diapers. She practically raised him, changed his diapers when he soiled himself, fed him, the whole shebang. But in the end he kicked her to the curb as though he didn't even know who she was. So when he pulls the plug on her only source of income, she feels some type of way. But I guess you can say she did a good thing. Her trying to kill him and take control of the throne led to him being turned into this ugly, furry animal. But it taught him a valuable lesson. Yeah, sure, even though it took him some time to get his head out of his ass, I think his character growth is pretty interesting. Like for a large portion of the film, Kuzco was still on his high horse thinking 𝗧𝗛𝗏 and 𝗏𝗏 would never do that to him, and ironically, he thought Pacha was the bad guy. But if there's one thing I've learned is you can never put anything past anyone. Because the minute you think they'll never do you like that, oh trust me, they will. Imagine going from having everything to being placed at the bottom of the barrel, from reaching the highest of highs to now scavenging among the rodents, feeling the lowest of lows. Kuzco is a constant reminder that everything you have can be gone in an instant. The money, the status, and the luxury all due to unforeseen circumstances. Of course, in this case, it was mainly due to the fact that he was a prick for too long and someone decided to teach him a lesson. Moral of the story, don't be a cunt. It won't work out for you. Trust me, I know. And so does Kuzco.
Please check out the socials to keep up with the channel. The owner of the channel would appreciate it a lot. See you in the next one. Mwah.